Airbnb has changed the hospitality industry with its decentralized short-term renting strategy. Over time, their business model has proven to be a fairly successful one. However, they have their fair share of mistakes, which makes their past dubious. Want to know more about Airbnb and the associated controversies? Stick around till the end and find out. Hi guys, welcome back to a brand new video on our channel. If you are a traveler, then you must be very well acquainted with Airbnb. Still, there is a likely chance that you don't know about the problems and challenges Airbnb faced in the past. So, let's get on with the unspoken story of Airbnb. Airbnb is a business idea that was born out of a situation of urgency when two friends who were living together didn't have enough money to pay the rent. The story starts with Brian Chesky and Joe Gibbia, who were sharing an apartment as roommates, and this one time, they had no money to pay their rent. And then Gibbia came across an advertisement for a conference happening nearby the location where they lived, and they came up with the idea that they should provide the living space to those coming for the conference, which will get them enough money to pay the rent. Both found the idea reasonable, and luckily it worked out, and they paid the rent for that month. This idea proved to be such a marvelous one for them. Soon, they started small by naming their business Air Bed and Breakfast, where they provided people with air mattresses to sleep on and a complimentary breakfast. That was until they partnered up with Nathan Blesharczyk, who is a computer scientist from Harvard. And if I say that this guy was the reason which made business go global, that won't be an exaggeration. So, Nathan, as a computer scientist, developed a website and shortened the name Air Bed and Breakfast to Airbnb. The business that went live in 2008 has now tapped into every country around the globe with over 7 million live listings on the website today. Though the business that has today become an undeniable reality in the hospitality industry has not always been the same. The idea that they were pitching was a controversial one back in 2008. You see, the idea of Airbnb is that if you have some extra space at your home, that can be a whole portion or maybe just one room, you list it on Airbnb's website and people can rent that for a few days. All the listings are free of charge, and the only time you are charged by Airbnb is during the booking. Even then, 15% of the booking charges that Airbnb receives are shared between the host and the guest. The idea is different from a contemporary tenant-renter relationship, as it's an on-demand temporary home sharing rather than renting a place permanently. So, in the initial years, when Airbnb required investment, the investors were skeptical about the idea and showed little to no interest. No one said that the idea itself was not very sound, but the problems and associated risks refrained the investors from coming in to join an uncertain journey. The concerns that were raised were very important, such as who will ensure the security, what methods will be adopted in case of property damage, and why would someone rent out their private space to a complete stranger? The concern of renting space to strangers went away when investors saw that people are ready to rent out their place to strangers. This happened when the three friends, helping themselves out, raised money to give an initial push to their business. Investors' confidence rose when they saw the business going up, and that's how Airbnb went airborne. The problems that investment didn't solve were the earlier raised concerns about the security and the safety of property, and a few more added to the list of problems after a while, such as racial discrimination. And that's where the controversial part of Airbnb's past begins. So, one of the problems that came up very early was discrimination by the host. As Airbnb's platform is totally decentralized, it means that you have complete autonomy over who you want to accept as your guest. This was a very good feature until it raised the problems of discrimination. To be honest, Airbnb had nothing to do with such a problem. It was up to the hosts who they select as their guests. But then Airbnb received a lot of complaints and reports about the hosts who would reject guests' requests because of their race. The major discrimination reports came from the Black community, and a few were from rejections based on religion. This problem was a genuine one, and the issue was that Airbnb had never thought this would ever come up. Hosts can surely select their guests, but specifically removing guests' requests based on their race or religion was not appropriate and was damaging Airbnb's image. Airbnb was facing a huge backlash, and to overcome that, they released a campaign #AirbnbWhileBlack and another one, #we accept later. One of the harsh and immediate steps the management at Airbnb took was to remove the listings of such hosts who rejected clients based on race, so they can set a clear precedent. These timely measures were taken to prove that no sort of discriminatory practices by the hosts will be tolerated, and Airbnb does not support such acts. The list of problems and controversies goes on, and the second one was raised when Airbnb had already gone global and many listings were available on the website. But then, security concerns were raised. Though they didn't come out of nowhere, they had always been there, but no one really talked about them before. This was until a few problematic incidents were reported to Airbnb, and the reports also went public, which raised concerns about how viable Airbnb's business model is if it can't ensure safety. For example, this one time, a group of people booked a space for a week, and their stay turned into an unfortunate event where 5 people were murdered. Another complaint that Airbnb received was from a host whose house was completely destroyed by the guests, and even the host's precious belongings were stolen. This incident even went public after the host got an article published about her experience with Airbnb. After such repeated incidents, Airbnb was forced to take notice. To deal with such a problem, Airbnb created a dedicated verification portal on its website. This portal asked for visual and documented verification of the incoming guests that would ensure that none of this happens again. They also created an emergency helpline for both the hosts and guests to contact in case of a problem. Airbnb even updated their conditions for the guests that if they are not booking a space to have a party, then they cannot arrange a party over there. All the measures and conditions did prove beneficial, as today, out of all the bookings, less than 1% face security or property damage issues, which surely is quite low for the hospitality industry standards. Now, if you are thinking, well, if they have solved everything, then it's great. After all, we do learn from experiences. That is true, until you hear that there is a problem that has been directly caused by Airbnb. And I don't think there is anything that Airbnb can do to solve it. The relation with the problem is so direct that it is called the Airbnb effect. Heard of it? If not, then hear it from us. This problem is a serious one, as it claims that Airbnb profits from increasing rents and reducing properties available for rent. Basically, the allegations on Airbnb are that to better off travelers and tourists, it put those into misery who want to rent space permanently. Let me explain. Before Airbnb, those who had extra space in their house rented it out. Now, many tenants go for renting the space for a shorter period on Airbnb, which has significantly decreased the properties available for full-time renting, simultaneously increasing the rents. And for now, there is no counter policy we can enact to get rid of this problem. So, I guess we have to live with it. And so, that's all the challenges that this 14-year-old home-sharing business has encountered. Have you ever used Airbnb yourself? If yes, how was the experience? Do let us know in the comment section below. On that note, I'll end this video here. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.